Should President former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo be writing political letters when he tore his PDP membership card and said that he was quitting partisan politics? Is this remotely going back on his stance? Do you think that he is?
I don't see that as going back on his stance. What I see is more or less a lone voice in the wilderness. What he's done is to speak the minds of many Nigerians, myself inclusive. Many people are not happy with what's happening in this country. First of all, let's look at the contents of the letter. Let's look at the security issue. It's been very, 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 very messy. I will agree, and I will say that in the issues of insurgency, the government has tried. Despite pockets of bombings here and there, there's relatively peace in the northeast. But now the issue of the herdsmen is being handled in a very messy way. The government has been insensitive to the issues, and it doesn't show whether the government has the sovereignty of this nation as its priority. Because if you look at what is happening now, you will find that it's just a matter of exchange of blame games. You find either people in authority trying to shift the blame to one party or the other, or people trying to give some kind of colorations, like saying clashes, when people know who are the people doing these things. It's either you hear that they are foreign mercenaries, or you hear that this and that. And to even say that they are mercenaries is an indictment on this government, because their number one priority is to preserve and protect the rights of Nigerians, and that has not been done.
You yourself, you're a foreign policy analyst. Tell us, do you feel very strongly about the grazing routes that extends from Guinea all the way to Nigeria, passing through Nigeria, as a matter of fact? Do you believe that what the submissions of the Minister for Defense said, that there has been an encroachment on the grazing routes? As a result of that, we're having this kind of clashes. What are your views to that submission?
In the first place, the question I want to ask is Nigeria for Guineans, or Nigeria is for Nigerians? That's number one. Number two, we have to probably review our treaties and our bilateral or tripartite agreements with other nations. Because if whatever agreement we go into does not put Nigeria first, then that is tantamount to sending this country to others. And don't forget that these routes were carved out years ago when our population was probably less than 100 million. Now we're over 180 million. We need to feed more people. We need to produce more. And you're not talking about grazing reserves. And then you hear things like colony. How do you expect to take up parcels of your own land and give to foreigners? It just doesn't make sense to me.
But how concerned do you, concerning this letter from the former president to the president, how concerned should the APC be about that letter? Pitching former President Olusegun Obasanjo's letter asking the president not to contest again to a man like Buhari, who has not lost an election in the northern part of the country in all 4 instances that he ran.
Well, I'm a member of the PDP, and I will say that even the PDP should begin to have jitters, because the president's letter talks about a third movement. Whether that is a political party or an ideology, I don't know about it. But I think both parties need to get their houses in order if really they want to be successful in 2019. If you recall back, President Jonathan's government started going in a downward spiral from a letter, which the President Olusegun Obasanjo titled "Before It's Too Late." Eventually, it was too late, and I think it would be callous for this government to take this particular letter lightly, because everything written in that letter is the truth. And if we are going to be honest to ourselves, then something is going to be done about this. And those people that are surrounding the president, they are not being fair, they are not being honest to him and to this nation. Personally, I wouldn't want to see my father or my grandfather approaching 80 going around this country in the name of campaigns. That's one. Number two, it's an insult to Nigerians out of 180 to 190 people, only one person, a septuagenarian, can take this country to the promised land. I want to see a leader that will make decisions and choices who he will be alive to see the consequences of the decisions he has made for this country.
Well, tell us about this coalition that you just mentioned, also mentioned in the former president's letter. What will a coalition of Nigeria represent for you?
Well, people have likened it to a new political party, a third force, and I want to look at it more from the angle of an ideology. For me, I want to see the coalition bring people from all walks of life, from all parties, like-minded people that want to see this nation move forward. I want to see the coalition produce leaders that view Nigeria as a single, indivisible entity, not in fractions of 97% or 5%. I want to see this coalition bring leaders that recognize that the rest of the world has moved into the fourth industrial revolution and we cannot afford to watch from the sidelines. I want to see a coalition that produces leaders that recognize that no Nigerian institution is among the top 1,000 universities in the world. I want to see a coalition that realizes that a particular generation of lecturers are aging and the government needs to do something to replace them.
Let me get your thoughts and your views on the 30th AU summit in Addis Ababa, where the president is attending. Also, corruption in Africa and how to tackle it is the broader theme for that meeting. You're a politician as well. What do you think will come out of this 30th meeting, considering it's the first time on the continent that will be discussing corruption and the challenges, and politicians are on the receiving end of this main discussion and are seen as culprits on corruption in Africa?
I have two questions, Gimba. First of all world leaders and all world business political leaders are in Davos in Switzerland discussing how to move their countries forward. And I wonder why you have an African Union summit to coincide with such an event. Well, I'm aware that the vice president is there, but the other question I want to ask is, shouldn't the African leaders be discussing why young men and young women are risking their lives on the Mediterranean and the Sahara to look for better lives outside their continent, rather than talking about corruption? However, when you look at it, corruption is a symptom of why these young people are leaving their countries. Because without corruption, there will be infrastructure, there will be jobs, and people will have better lives. Now,
I must thank you so much indeed for talking to us. I'm afraid we're running out of time. Rejo Shikari is a governance and foreign policy analyst, also a Commonwealth scholar. Many thanks indeed for talking to us on State of the Nation. Now, Lassa fever is spreading. Is the government listening? Join us again.